Listen, 10 grand is nothing to laugh at. Unless you are a weird anime-obsessed, hyper-online fashion fan who wants to meme on archive clothing. Well, how about a $40,000 jacket?
Wait, you're telling me there is a basement-dwelling otaku out there who has both deep manufacturing and design knowledge, but also a deep understanding of these unattainable fashion grails?
You don't say. For real, today we are looking at a wild intersection of fashion and satire, one that will challenge your perceptions of value and art and money. What we're looking at today is a really interesting project about somebody who took a $10,000 Raf Simons jacket and then just decided to meme on it in order to make a commentary on the state of high fashion. Or maybe they just like Raf and they like anime and that's all there is to it. If you're not familiar, Raf Simons is a fashion designer. He currently works at Prada, but the old heads know him as the creative director of his namesake fashion label, Raf Simons. And by old heads, I mean you have to be like at least 2 years old to know that information. Raf is like the progenitor. I've never used that word out loud before, progenitor. He like created so many of the big fashion trends of the past couple decades, honestly. I would say he arguably brought streetwear into high fashion because he was using graphic pieces and like t-shirts and streetwear stuff, not just like as merch for the brand, which was separated, but as integral pieces as part of his runway collections. He's also like the archetypal archive designer. I know there are hotter archive brands out there right now, whether it's like ERD or If 6 Was 9 or Dior Homme, maybe even whatever. But oh my God, Raf Simons stuff, people just went crazy for it. Like when you think about this idea of people looking at a designer and their old runway pieces and saying, this piece is so cool that I think it is worth 5 times, 10 times what it cost at retail. I feel like Raf has been at the forefront of that. Now listen, these great collections, I'm talking about Fall Winter 01 Riot, you feel me? I'm talking about Fall Winter 02 Virginia Creeper, you know I'm talking about Fall Winter 03 Closer. In hindsight, I feel like Raf just maybe eats in fall, I guess. But with Raf Simons being so into graphics, and also being so well-known and beloved within this particular fashion niche, it made him a very ripe candidate for parody. That's right, Raf Simons, you gotta be taken down a peg, you smug little Belgian bitch. And all of this is how the brand Raf Simons was formed. Rough as in rough sex, aka the thing I would be having if I wasn't a total virgin. And Simmons, as in Simmons, but spelled Simmons. The designers behind Raf Simons approached this world of archive and high fashion with a kind of provocative twist. They started creating meme-ified, anime-inspired versions of these Raf Simons grails. In doing so, they've posed an intriguing question. What happens when high fashion meets satire? Now I'll admit, this isn't necessarily a new question. I'd say it really echoes the approach that the brand Vetements took when they broke down the doors on their way into the fashion world. Vetements, they were kings of like high fashion irony and critique. The brand was formed by 2 brothers, Guram and Demna Vasalia. Guram is still running Vetements. Demna, his brother, is now at Balenciaga. And when they started, what Vetements would do is they would just like break down preconceptions about what made something luxury fashion, both within the clothes themselves and the ways in which they would stage their collections. They would basically bring the entire fashion world into their little clique and then point and laugh at them and ask them like, do you realize that we're laughing at you right now? Some people loved this approach, other people thought it was pandering, and some other people just thought it was a new way to sell way too expensive clothes to dumb people. I happen to think it was genius, but your mileage may vary, especially with modern Vetements. But I really think you can draw a through line from Vetements to Raf Simons. By redesigning the Raf Simons Riot bomber jacket, they are doing something provocative here. They're challenging norms around the value of high fashion, as well as like replica and dupe culture. It's like those old anti-piracy ads. They're like, would you download a vintage Raf jacket? And Raf Simons was like, yes, I would. And I would also edit said jacket and make it anime-ish. But by taking something that is so emblematic of this high fashion, archive, reseller, hypebeast, streetwear, runway world, and taking that and then putting some humor into it, it questions the self-seriousness of the entire endeavor. And it makes you ask, well, why is this stuff so exclusive and rare and expensive and unattainable in the first place? Now, let me explain the specifics of the jacket we're looking at here. So this is essentially a replica of the Raf Simons Riot bomber, but the patches have been replaced with Akira patches. Akira? I'm just gonna say Akira because I'm American and I'm not a f***ing nerd. We're gonna check this out. We're gonna look at all the details. We're gonna try it on, see how it feels, how it fits. So let's dive in and unpack how this playful interpretation of a high fashion archive jacket could hold new meaning through their take on it. But first, I'm gonna need you all to go subscribe to my Patreon. If you want access to my super secret Discord where I post stuff for sale that I've featured on the channel, you gotta get in there. If you want exclusive videos like the one that I just posted this past week, you gotta get in there. And if you want to be shouted out in videos, like for instance, thank you Henry K, get into that Patreon. The link is in the description. Can I just say, this is like a big bag. This is a hefty piece. That's one of the first things I noticed is that this thing is solid. It's heavy, which I think is a good omen. We can already see the size is small. That's a QR code that literally goes nowhere, so we're gonna ignore that. Damn, that texture is really good. Whoa, it's like a denim fabrication, like a twill? No shot. All right, I'm gonna hang this up. This is the 2001 Raf Simons Riot bomber. Oh, sorry, I was misreading my script. This is the Raf Simons archival reissue Neo Tokyo bomber. And clearly, it is inspired by Raf's Riot bomber. But the patches have been replaced with Akira patches. I don't know why they called it the Neo Tokyo bomber as opposed to the Akira bomber, which is more descriptive, but I don't know, maybe legal reasons. So Raf's iconic piece was made from a simple Fostex brand bomber jacket, which he then adorned with patches of David Bowie, Bauhaus, stuff like that. And I legitimately want to know what you think about this. Do you think it's just like a dumb replica, a cheesy, whatever? I don't know. For my part, I think, when Raf made the Riot bomber, that was him referencing the things, the cultural touchstones that spoke to him. And I feel like by placing these patches on here, the Raf Simons team, there you go, Raf Simons, are referencing the culture that had an impact on them. And they did pick a great property to reference. I mean, Akira is a fantastic film to the point where it really transcends being anime and is just a film, so even not nerds like myself can get into it. I'm sorry, I just love ragging on anime, even though I'm super close friends with so many of these weird otakus. Otaku? Otakai? Anyway, before we look at these details, which are sick, I want to know about the bomber itself because Raf Simons, he used an off-the-shelf Fostex bomber, and I'm curious what Raf Simons used for theirs. So looking at the tags and such, we've got the Raf Simons tag here, and it does say Archive Collection because they released this piece many years ago initially, and it sold out, and it's been kind of an underground, like, grailed fine type of thing since then, and I think they saw that it was still speaking to people, so they did an Archive Collection, and that's when I picked this up. There are no tags inside this thing because it is, I think, technically reversible. I don't know why you would want to wear the orange side instead of the Raf $30,000 jacket side, but to each their own. So inside of these insanely nice flat pockets, I love these, we have got the tag right here. And this is just like a classic MA1 bomber jacket tag. But it's actually really interesting because it says Jacket Flyers Men Intermediate MA1. Then it actually says Raf Simons LLC and New York. Interesting. This one, they say it's a size medium, but then it's tagged a 1. I wonder if from the factory it comes medium, but they're calling it a 1. Interesting stuff. But this looks similar to a Fostex tag, but it isn't the same. So I'm curious if they just duped it or if they did go to Fostex and then get custom similar tags made. So many questions here, so curious. Interesting, this Mill J model number is what Fostex uses for their stuff. So either it's a dupe or they did the same thing Raf did and used a Fostex. And everything about this is so nice. The fabrication goes so crazy. It's a treated, like kind of faded camo, obviously, but you can see like the white from in this twill, the inside of the grooves kind of coming through. It gives it this really nice kind of snowy, noisy texture. And of course, this being a bomber, it's got the rib trim in a very like Raf referential type of color here. It's nice and thick too, that's solid. This is a well-made bomber. Sort of like shallow cuffs right here, which is interesting. And of course, that collar. Damn, I love the contrast of the darker green to the faded camo. That's sick. You also get like a sort of weathered bronze color zipper here, very nice. And of course, this like quilted kind of zipper stop behind it. All right, let's talk Akira, let's talk patches. Obviously, Raf put patches in these places for the musical references that he was going after at the time. But what Raf Simons has done is replace those. So the big left chest patch right here is this image, and that's printed really well. The treating is really good. Actually, you know what? This is interesting. I think that this bomber was treated after the patches were put on, because look at this. Do you see like the fade right here and right here? That looks like the same type of wear, the same type of treatment. Maybe they enzyme wash it, whatever the case may be. I think that's great. That's a really good touch and shows some foresight, because super clean, just slapped on patches onto like a streetwear piece looks super posery and fake, but these are like weathered in the right way. A couple of these are text patches. This one, it says Akira, Akira, and it's got the kind of like logline synopsis paragraphs here. Smaller patch above it, 2020 Olympics, closure. How did they know? Oh God, Akira knew what was coming, man. 2020, what a year. And finally, the right shoulder patch is this heater right here. Yes, dude, that's so sick. As for the back, it's blank, just like the Raf Riot Bomber, but this is one place I would have loved if Raf Simons just broke from the Raf version. I know they were trying to be as true as possible. A big-ass back patch on this would be so good. I think it was a mistake for Raf not to do a back patch, and I think it was a mistake for Raf not to do a back patch either. Give me a back patch. Listen, Raf Simons, if you watch this video, if you got any patches lying around, gimme, gimme, gimme. I'm putting it right there, okay? Thank you. But this is not a cash grab. Okay, this is not a joke. They're not like laughing this one off. They're not just snatching your $600 and laughing all the way to the bank as they talk about what an idiot you are for buying it. Obviously, they know what they're doing and they care about these pieces because, dude, this pocket is so nice. Like the tonal green herringbone around the zippers that matches the collar. It's really well put together. The treatments are great. The materials are great. Like, I didn't think I needed a faded twill cotton camo bomber jacket in my life with Akira patches on it. But in retrospect, I definitely did. And now I have it. So to me, I think the part of this that actually has some sort of takeaway, some sort of meaning, is that fashion exists in the context of the culture and time frame, the era in which it was made. So in 2001, when Raf is making the Riot Bomber and the entire collection, really, it's a reference of its time. So if you were to update that for the modern context, what would you do? You would do something like this. The people that back in Raf's day were listening to New Order, or Joy Division, whatever the case may be, these days they're growing up watching anime, listening to like opium music. I don't know. What do kids do? But I do think there's legitimate value in recontextualizing these archival pieces, and especially like the Riot Bomber, unless you want a replica, is completely unattainable. Literally, none of us will ever have that. But if you can have this one that references your own interests with a reverence and respect for the original, because that's what I'm really getting out of this, is that they respect the Raf piece a lot, and you can tell. Like, I think that's a good thing. So despite the fact that this is a funny piece, a humorous piece, I would say, it's meant to be laughed at to a degree, it is a shockingly well put together piece of clothing. And now I need to see how it fits. Do they put as much thought into the fit of these pieces as they do into the design and apparently the manufacturing? But we've got to see what else we're wearing with it. So for the fit here, I kind of want to stay like military, but like a clean military, like maybe like an upper officer type of deal. So of course, we've got the outerwear. For pants, I'm going to do these ones. These are a 2018 pair of pants from Balenciaga, and they're of course like army green and stupid wide leg, okay? The legs are insane on this. This was like the first time that Demna really started going crazy with the legs at Balenciaga, and it works great. For an undershirt, this is like a bit of a Raf influence because it feels like him, like a kind of clean black. This is a piece from the Soloist. It is a pure silk t-shirt just to keep things a little bit upscale, a little bit clean. And finally, I could see like a combat boot working here, but again, upscale, commander vibes. We're doing the Balenciaga badge boots. I think they're gonna class up this joint, okay? Let's see what happens. All right, let's get it going. We're going to be taking some cues from Raf Simons and his archival looks, but for the most part, we're doing our thing here. Let's start off with the Balenciaga pants. Demna, we all know, he's a king. We love him. I think it makes sense to pair a piece by the founder of Vetements with this meme jacket that Raf Simons has made. But they're super wide, they're super long, but I really like the cut because it's really skinny and cinched in the waist in kind of a high rise, so it kind of like flows outwards as it goes down, which is really nice. Moving right along, let's get the boots on. I love these monogram badge boots. They hold up even though monograms are super played out at this point and nobody likes them anymore, understandably so, but somehow when you put them in metal at the toe of a boot, it still works. I think it does a whole lot to class up the joint here, which is exactly what we needed. And actually, to continue classing up the joint, we can put on the silk t-shirt from the Soloist, because while this is a t-shirt, right, which is usually a pretty casual piece, you know, Raf Simons has done a ton of t-shirts on the runway. This one ups the ante and kind of refines it a bit, makes it a bit dressier, both through the silk fabrication, but also the higher mock neck, and also the fact that it's like a ribbed collar and biceps, so it kind of grabs you tightly. It looks more tailored in a way. Personally, I think that this is going to look best tucked in, so we'll go ahead and do that. And it's probably also time to get any like jewelry going, stuff like that. I'm going to keep it simple on the necklace. This is the most low-key necklace I have by Chrome Hearts, just a tiny little Rolo chain necklace. And the usual slew of rings. Can't go anywhere without my rings, a mix of Chrome Hearts and ERD. And that means it is now time for the Not Riot Bomber by Raf Simons here. And throwing this on, they definitely considered fit here. I have a feeling that their manufacturer, the size of this is a medium, but for them, they know that they want a more like relaxed fit, so they called it a small. They kind of sized everything down in what they're calling it. And I think that's a great move because I wasn't sure. I looked at the measurements. I was like, I might need a medium, but I bought the small. But I think if they'd used their like distributors, their manufacturers tagged size small, the sleeves would have been too short for me. But these, they're just right. And I think it's because of that shallow cuff that they come up short. But for me, it's just right. It's actually a very interesting cut when you think about it. It's a little bit of a dropped shoulder, a wide pit to pit, but short sleeves and kind of like a cropped body. I feel like it's a slightly different fit from how the Raf one fit, but like I'm not mad about that necessarily. The fabric feels incredible. The nylon on the inside feels incredible. The zipper is buttery. The snap buttons at the sides are great. Like I said, it's a very well-made jacket at a base level. By the way, I also wanted to throw like a beanie on. I think that'll elevate it. Raf loved covering heads. You just loved it. So even in the Riot collection, there's a lot of covered heads and faces in that one. And this just felt right. This is like a no brand vintage, like ribbed, speckled knit beanie, kind of a big beanie. I like it. The jacket has kind of like almost a winter camo vibe because of the fading. So this kind of like wintry color, both in style and color of the beanie is great. I also think we can accessorize even more. Like I have the Raf Simons East Pack like quilted bag with his signature rings up along the strap. And I think this is another really nice touch as well. It feels a little bit more refined and I think works with the upscale Commander's fit that we've got going here. So I think this worked out successfully. I think Raf Simons, they know what they're doing. They're referencing it really intelligently and really, I don't know, with reverence, with respect. I get the feeling that they really love archive clothing and Raf Simons and all this stuff, and they're just like paying their homage to the master here, but doing so in like a tongue-in-cheek way that doesn't take this entire high fashion archive world too seriously, which I think is very important because goddamn, some of these people take themselves way too seriously. All right, that's the video. Let me know what you think. Do you think this entire endeavor is just silly? Do you think it's pointless? Do you think it's insulting to Raf Simons? Or do you like it? Do you not care at all? Let me know down below. Do all these engagement-y things that help me in the YouTube algorithm, like, liking, subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time.